Hello everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Destiny video. Ever since Legacies has come out, and there's been I think an uptick in good hero cards. It looks like they're kind of finally getting away from having all the really good cards be villain. They're making a lot of the really good cards now hero and neutral. Villain still gets some good stuff as well. But I was thinking about Jyn Erso and how over the summer I really liked playing with Jyn decks. I played Jyn and Rebel Commando was one of my favorite decks over the summer. It wasn't an amazing deck. It wasn't like a tournament level deck or anything like that, but it was a lot of fun using Jin's ability to play out three cost events for two, using something like Infamous to give them ambush, and then just doing a bunch of damage and things like that. So she kind of makes these expensive events playable. If it's the first event you play each round, it decreases it by one. So this is just a quick video of me kind of revisiting Jyn and talking about maybe a deck I'm working on right now with Jyn and things like that. So we're just going to take a look at Jyn really quick here. So 11 health, 15 or 20 points. People argued at the time that point value was fairly high because it didn't really give you a lot of options for a partner for her. So you had a 10-point partner you can put in. I obviously put in the Rebel Commando because it also had similar sides to Jyn. It had the range damage and discard sides. So those sides were basically the same. So that added some synergy between the two characters. But now there's other characters you can pair with her. You can pair her with like Ezra, maybe. I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing Ezra just because he takes 7 health and he's defeated. But you can also pair her with a single die Yoda, which is what I've been kind of working on. So let's take a look at Jyn here. So we have 11 health, 15, 20, 2 range, discard, 2 discard, resource, and blank. And then I think the best part about her is this ability of the first yellow event you play each round is decreased by 1. So when I was playing over the summer, I was using it for, again, Never Tell Me the Odds, reversal, um, stuff like that. So getting out a lot of stuff for a little bit less. So it would actually make those cards playable if you play them with her because you're only spending 2 resources on it. So what I was doing was Infamous, Never Tell Me the Odds, um, Never Tell Me the Odds getting ambushed from Infamous and then just resolving a bunch of damage. There's also stuff now you can use, such as running interference. This combo is seen in Sabine Yoda, where you play a weapon from your discard pile on Sabine, an ambush weapon. You roll her in. You then, your ambush action, you play Never Tell Me the Odds, and then you use running interference to make it so running interference, choosing the play a card action. So now your opponents can't play a card, and that can at least not mitigate you by playing a card. They have like a chopper special showing they can still resolve that die and get rid of something 2 or less, and so on. But I think I'm gonna play around with Jyn Yoda and see how it goes. I think Sabine Yoda is still probably the stronger deck just because Sabine has a really cool ability and better sides, but I just wanted to try to create a Jyn deck with legacy stuff and see how it goes. So we're going to pause the video, going to switch over, we're going to talk about the deck, and we're going to go through the deck and going to explain why I chose certain cards and so on. So we'll be right back with that part of the video. Alright, and now we are back with the Jyn Erso Yoda deck. So we have 30 points here. So we're playing on the Outer Rim Outpost. Claim, gain a resource, and draw a card. So again, like I said, haven't used Jyn since Spirit of Rebellion, so we have some Empire at War and Legacy stuff in this deck as well. So let's take a look at Jyn here. We already discussed her kind of, so she's 11 health, 15, 20, 2 range, discard, 2 discard, resource blank, and the cost of the first yellow event you play each round is decreased by 1. Then have a single Yoda. So 10 points, 2 focus, disrupt, discard, shield, 2 specials, and special, choose and do 2 of the following. Gain a resource, give your character a shield, turn 1 of your dice to any side, or discard the top card of a deck. Into our upgrades, I have 1 DL44 Heavy Blaster Pistol, 3 resources, 3 range for a resource, plus 2 range, resource, double blanks, has ambush. After you play this upgrade, force an opponent to choose and remove 1 of their dice. We have 2 Force Illusion, 1 cost. Before the attached character takes damage, you may discard cards on the top of your deck equal to the to that damage. To block it, then this card is upgraded from play. We have 2 force speed, so 0 cost. Focus, shield, 3 specials, and the blank. Blue character only, take up to 2 additional actions. We have 2 holdout blasters, 2 cost, 1 range, 2 range for a resource, plus 2 range. Shield resource blank, has ambush and redeploy. We have 1 lone operative, 3 cost, 2 melee damage, 2 discard, resource, 2 specials, and the blank. Heal 2 damage from the attached character, or 3 damage instead if the attached character is your only character in play. We have 1 second chance, 3 cost, yellow character only. Before the attached character, now started moving. Before the attached character would be defeated, instead heal 5 damage from it and discard this upgrade. And finally, 2 X8 Night Snipers. 2 cost, 1 range, 3 range for a resource, plus 2 range, disrupt resource blank, as an ambush. And as an action, you can spend the resource to turn this die to any side. Into our supports, we have 2 running interference, 0 cost. After you take an action, you may exhaust this support to choose an opponent. That opponent cannot take the same action that you just took on their next turn. So let's say we roll in Jyn, we can exhaust this so they can't activate a character. Or the other combo is exhaust this, play a card, exhaust this, and then say play a card as the action that your opponent can't take. And we're going to get into some of the legacy stuff right here. So we have 2 easy pickings. Really good card from Legacies. So 1 cost, spot a yellow character to remove 2 dice showing the same symbol and value, ignoring modifiers and resource costs. So if your opponent rolls out, let's say they roll out 2 range and 2 range on 2 different dice, you pay 1. Or if this is the first event you've played on that round, Jyn makes this cost 0, and both those dice are removed. You can do it to remove specials as well. So if your opponent rolled out, let's say like double specials on something, you can't, or 2 different dice with specials, you play easy pickings and you can remove both of them. You have 2 Entangle. It comes from the Boba Fett starter set. 2 cost, spot a yellow character to remove up to 2 dice showing a combined value of 3 or less. Again, with Jyn, this will only cost you 1 if it's the first event you've played that round. From the Rivals draft set, we have 2 Hidden Motive. Probably the best card in the Rivals draft set, in my opinion, or best event at least. 0 cost, it's a blue card. Choose a symbol, then re-roll an opponent's die. If that die just rolled the same symbol, remove it. Let's say your opponent rolled out damage. You are range damage. You call range damage. They re-roll the die. If it rolls range damage, they remove the die. And if it rolls something else, it's probably not what your opponent wanted to begin with. They probably would have rather had the damage side that was showing on it, or a special, or whatever. So you're then giving them something that they might not necessarily want to resolve, and they may end up having to discard or reroll later in the round anyway. We have 1 Impersonate, 2 cost. Move damage among your characters as you wish. This ignores shields, and you cannot exceed a character's health while moving this damage. So if Jyn is really close to being defeated, you can play Impersonate, move damage onto Yoda. Hopefully not enough to defeat Yoda, but enough to keep both of them alive for a little while longer. Also, if it's the first event you play that round, it will only cost you 1 instead of 2. So we have 2 Mislead, 1 cost, remove a character die showing a value of 2 or less. Some really good removal out of Legacy, so you just pay 1, the die, and it's got to be 2 or less. But generally, a lot of the characters' dice generally don't go above 3 unless we're talking about like Sabine, maybe Mace Windu. Vader has the 3 melee side, and so on. But if they roll a side with a 2 or less, you can pay 1, play Mislead, and remove that die. You have 2 Never Tell Me the Odds. Cost 3. Choose one of your yellow characters. Turn any number of its character and upgrade dice to sides of your choice. Jyn, this is only going to cost you 2. And then this is the same combo with the Sabine Yoda deck. Is you roll out Sabine, and in this case, roll out Jyn. Hopefully with something like Quick Draw, which we'll get to in a second. As your ambush action, you play Never Tell Me the Odds, and then you exhaust Running Interference to make it so your opponent can't play a card. So they won't be able to play a card like, let's say you inflicted all the range damage. They can't play a card like Dive to remove your range damage dice, and so on. So basically, it makes it so if they do make you remove dice, it has to come from like a die action. Like Chopper has a special which is remove a die showing a value of 2 or less, and so on. So they won't be able to play any of their removal cards if you exhaust running interference and choose the option to play a card. Then it goes back to your turn, and you're then able to resolve all of that damage that they were not able to mitigate because you played running or tapped running interference. Next up, we have Quick Draw. 0 cost. Play a weapon from your hand on one of your characters. Paying its cost, you may activate that character. So this is again one of the best cards in Legacies, I believe. Probably like a staple card in any yellow deck. So you're going to play a weapon on that character and roll that character in. You're obviously going to want to do this with an ambush weapon. So if you do it with an ambush weapon, you play Quick Draw, play, let's say, your Holdout Blaster, roll that character in, and then use the ambush from that weapon to take another action, such as resolve dice or play something like Never Tell Me the Odds. So Quick Draw, really good yellow event. Works great in this deck. Works amazing I've used it in my Han and Finn deck, and it just works really well. Next up, we have 2 Rebel. So 1 cost, play only if you have 1 or more dice showing a discard. Play a card from your discard pile, decreasing its cost by 1. So both Jyn has 2 discard sides per die. Yoda also has a discard side, as does the lone operative die. So to get Rebel out, you have to have one of those dice showing a discard. If this is the first event you play that round, Jyn will make this cost 0, and then you can play a card from your discard pile, decreasing its cost by 1 again, so you're then able to play something like Never Tell Me the Odds for 2. So you roll out discard, pay 0 to play Rebel if it's the first event, then get to play a card from your discard pile, decreasing it, so your 3 cost events become 2 cost, and 2s become 1s, and so on. So Rebel, really good way to get some of those larger events back, such as Never Tell Me the Odds, Reversal. You can get back Entangle, for example. So you pay 0 to play Rebel. If you have a resource, then not Mislead, Entangle will only cost you 1. And finally, we have 2 Reversal. So 3 cost, spot a yellow character to remove a die showing damage. Range melee are now indirect, as in parentheses are now reminder text. So you can indirect damage with this and deal that damage to a character. This would generally not be very well played or playable outside of using Jyn, because she makes this cost 2 if it's the first event. So let's say your opponent has the 6 indirect damage showing on a Rebel Bomber or Resistance Bomber. You then use Jyn's ability, decrease this to 2, play Reversal, and then deal that damage to a character. I don't know if it's if you remove indirect though, if your opponent gets to spread it, because it just says spot the other character to remove a die showing damage, then deal that damage to a character. So I guess you just treat the value as 6, so it would be 6 damage to 1 character, which could be fairly devastating. So some cool events that came out in Legacies that are working with this deck now have access to Quick Draw, Mislead, Impersonate, which is actually from Empire at War, but again, I hadn't played Jyn since Spirit Rebellion. We have access to Impersonate, Hidden Motive, Entangle, Easy Pickings, Running Interference, the X8 Night Sniper, and so on. So I still think Sabine Yoda is probably a stronger deck, but Jyn Erso, the plus side of using her is you're not using something like Maz's Vault. So in a lot of the Jyn or Sabine Yoda decks I've seen, they're running Maz's Vault. And they're also running Rebel or Outer Rim Outpost as well. But they're using Maz's Vault to get those extra resources needed to pay for those expensive events. But at the same time, they're also giving the opponent extra resources as well. So if you do it with Jyn, you're not going to be giving your opponent extra resources because you don't really need Maz's Vault, because her ability will drop the cost of those 3 cost events down to 2. So I'm going to bring this deck out to just a casual event tomorrow, see how it plays. Again, I think Sabine Yoda is still probably the stronger deck, but Jyn Yoda could still be fun. So that's going to do it for this video. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Take care.